Burning Barrel Podcast. As always, I am Paul, and with me is Hank.
Hello.
Hey, it's weird calling you Hank when I'm so used to just calling you Homer in, like, games and stuff so people know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Have you ever considered just changing your name to Homer legally?
That sounds like more work.
Yeah.
Although I already have the problem where my first name is John, so for like anything official stuff, I would get called John anyway. So
So your name's actually not Hank? Is that your
my
middle name?
parents always called me Hank. My name is John Henry.
That's not even close.
Hank is short for Henry.
You have 4 names.
Yeah.
Good lord.
It's because my dad is the same thing, where his first name is John, but he always went by Matt. His middle name's
What?
Matthew.
Okay. Is that like a Jersey thing?
I don't.
Also, why don't you have a Jersey accent?
Because I don't live in that part of Jersey.
What part of Jersey do you live in then? Give us your address.
The part that's basically New York.
Why don't you have a New Yorker accent?
Because there isn't really a New York accent.
The real answer is I don't talk like a retard, or I'm not retarded. You know, just to be rude. Do you have friends that actually have like a thick Brooklyn accent or anything like that?
No, I have a friend who has a New York accent only when he's giving directions to someone else.
So
Like, whenever someone asks for directions and he starts answering them, he just in his brain, for some reason, he switches to doing a New York accent. It's really weird.
So like he'll be talking like you and I are now. And he's like, "Oh yeah, just go down to Wall Street there," like just or something.
Yeah, basically.
I don't know streets in New York. Otherwise, I could carry that a little further. But I have no fucking idea. I'm sure there's a main street or center street of some sort. There's a 34th. I know because there was a Miracle there, and a few movies based on it. So.
Yep.
Have you ever been to that place where they're like 34th or whatever? Is there like a toy store there or something? A mall? Something?
I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since I saw that movie. I don't actually remember what place they're referencing. I've probably been there.
Dude, it was Matilda. The kid.
Yeah.
I can't remember her actual name. That's why I called her Matilda. But apparently she went into theater acting later on and like isn't a huge fan of the stuff she did as a kid. Go figure. Child actors not liking their past.
Yeah, it's almost like they were kids and didn't completely.
It was almost like they were exploited for money
or made poor decisions.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like they were exploited for money by their parents.
Yeah.
And for like studio execs, I should also point out as well. They're the ones who made the money. The parents, I'm sure, only made like a little bit. Really, probably not a whole lot. From what I'm to understand, there's actually not a whole lot of money in acting unless you're like Tom Cruise big.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It seems like that's not a job I've ever wanted, you know? I've never wanted to be an actor, like ever.
No. Nope. Not really.
Like there's never been dreams of I'm going to go to Hollywood and like work at a Starbucks or something until I make it. Like that all sounds terrible. I mean, that sounds like the worst idea. But maybe good on whoever can do it. Like, I wish you luck, but you're probably not going to make it statistically. Like, you should give up and get a real job. But
It's true.
I guess that's all I have to say about that.
That's our depressing advice for actors.
I'll drink to that.
Cold, harsh realities.
Yeah. Although some of them legitimately did start that way and have become huge. Like Bradley Cooper, for instance.
Very small percentage.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of people. I mean, most of them honestly just end up doing porn or like B-rated movies, like the B horrors or something. And I don't know which one's worse, like a bad B movie or like a good porno. They're probably on the same quality wavelength as each other. So
There's also room in the middle there.
I don't think so. I don't think there is. I think it's either Avengers or Backdoor Sluts 9.
No, I mean there's room between. There's even room between the B or C grade movie and actual porn.
What about B movie with Jerry Seinfeld?
Never saw that movie.
Me neither. I've always wanted to because I reference it a lot.
Seems like a reason to see something.
I bet it's terrible. Jerry Seinfeld is not a very funny guy, in my opinion. It's all Larry David that made his stuff good. In the show, specifically. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
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 Although I never got
Jerry
into Crypt.
Seinfeld's okay. I like that episode. The episode the Louis he was in.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, but that's because Louis is hilarious.
I liked him on Curb Your Enthusiasm. He was good on Curb.
But he's just playing himself as a dick. Like,
yeah, I mean that's all he ever did was play himself.
touche.
He's
Curb Your
okay
Enthusiasm is Larry David, though. So, like, of course you liked him in that because it was well done. Whereas,
yeah, Larry David is great.
He is great, and like Louis is great. So no wonder he was great in that. Have you ever gone to see Louis C.K. live?
I've not.
You should, because you seem to be like the only place in the fucking world where he ever does shows regularly. So
the shows sell out really quick.
Oh, do they? Like, do you have any idea how long? Maybe like 20 minutes, half hour or something? Something
like that.
So,
and a lot of them go to you can like subscribe to his like thing and people can get in sooner if they're like subscribed in or something. I looked into it once, but I didn't want to do all that work.
It seems like it would be a good night out, though.
Probably.
Yeah.
But I didn't seem like something where I could organize it to go with people. And like going out by myself was less appealing.
Do you ever go see movies alone?
I do see movies alone sometimes. I saw White God and Ex Machina by myself just because my friend couldn't make it. Usually I go with someone though.
I don't go see movies often at all myself. And like if there's nobody to go with, I just will not go at all.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I found out why I don't go to movies that often when I went to go see Avengers Age of Ultron, which we'll be talking about pretty quick here. It was like $60, all things considered. Like we got some drinks and snacks and stuff at the theater as well, and the admission fee, and it was only showing at the time we went in like 3D and like the good quality stuff. It's one of those. So it's just like the tickets themselves were over $30, and then the snacks and stuff were like 20 something. So that's why I don't go very often, honestly, because it is a week's worth of cigarettes to keep me sane at work, or a video game I wanted to play, or 3 or 4 DVDs or 2 Blu-rays that I wanted. Like, it's a bunch of stuff but at the end, like, every now and then it's kind of a nice way to get out for the night. So I don't necessarily disagree with people going to movies all the time. I just think they're either rich bastards or they have more sense and go to the cheaper theaters. So
yeah, and don't buy, like, eat beforehand. is a key too.
The problem is
not getting snacks and stuff.
The problem is like
that kills you.
We were doing the podcast on Friday, and then Saturday I had to go help my grandma move. So Friday and Saturday were kind of taken up, and I wanted to see it before we talked about it on Friday. And I work until 11 p.m. Monday to Thursday. So I actually left work halfway through my shift at 7 to go to it. Came back at 9:30, finished off my shift, and then went home. So I kind of skipped out through 3 hours worth of work to see it. So I kind of like I had to go at whatever time I could, and the only 7 o'clock showing was at that theater, unfortunately. But yeah, that's why we ate there too, because it was like, no, we got to go now. We'll just grab a hot dog and stuff at the theater, and yeah, I mean, the wallet paid the price for it, but it was worth it. It was a good night out. So we both saw Age of Ultron. That's the long-winded way of starting this off here. What did you think of it?
I thought it was fun.
Yes.
Like, it's what I expect from the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Them to be pretty good.
That being said,
Yeah.
if it was anything less than what it was, because it still wasn't enough really to make it great for me. So if it was any less what it would have been terrible, I think.
You're right. The thing about the first Avengers is it wasn't doing a lot of work setting up future stuff, and this was. So you feel that like checklist stuff coming into it, which is like the part of these movies that I like the least.
Sure, yeah.
Like that was really what broke Iron Man 2 completely. Like it was setting up stuff that it was setting up like Tony Stark not being in the Avengers, which didn't even come to pass. Like it was really weird about that.
And then they kind of made that. They kind of were just like explained why that wasn't true with the third Iron Man, which kind of made it disingenuous in a way too, where it's like, oh yeah, no, everything's fine. See, he has all these suits now. It's like, oh right, I guess it's okay. Like I don't know. There's a weird disconnect between 2 and 3. I feel that.
Yeah, 2 feels like they made it not knowing Robert Downey Jr.'s contract situation, and then they decided to pay him.
Sure. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And I think that's why, like, I don't like 2. It's my least favorite of the 3. But I like 1 and 2 as a story arc way more than I think 3 has any business being a thing at all. Because it feels like kind of a one-off story that doesn't really have anything to do with... It feels like a B-side or something that they added in for... And it's probably for that very reason where they found out that Robert Downey Jr. actually wants to keep playing Iron Man in Avengers and stuff they want to do going forward. So now we have to kind of explain why he's not over, basically. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
That
I
being
3 okay. I thought I liked that he was... I liked how different it was. That he... Like, all the stuff of him, like, sneaking around and making gadgets and stuff. I just wasn't expecting that, so I liked that stuff.
And it was the last time we saw Pepper.
It's true.
So there's all the suits too. Like that ending's pretty good. It's pretty.
It's a good scene.
It's a Marvel spectacular scene, basically. That you were just like, yeah, this is a Marvel movie because there are literally fucking 25 weird robots just flying around kicking the shit out of stuff right now.
Yeah, they put a really good variety into them.
How did you feel about the weird bait and switch with Mandarin? In that one,
it was fine.
It was great. I'm glad they did it that way because if they had done it where like he was the Mandarin, it would have been pretty lame. I think.
There's no good way to do the Mandarin in that setting,
especially when you get a white British guy to do.
I mean, it's pretty true to these like Fu Manchu roots, but
yeah,
like Mandarin's such a racist caricature.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It is. That being said, I guess this is a good lead up to one of the things I found a little weird about Avengers 2. I felt like Robert Downey Jr.'s heart wasn't fully into it as it has been in the past in this one. Like, he was still good every time he did his thing, but it didn't feel like he was trying to be good anymore. Like, he was just kind of there, and like this is part of him now, which is probably fine because he has been playing that character for a long time now. But
I don't and he's almost done playing it.
Like, it really feels like Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man in this. Like, he just showed up on set this time. Like, I don't know. It was weird. It felt like there was almost very little acting or something. He just has it down so much that it feels like he doesn't have to try, and I don't know. It didn't feel as good. Like, his Tony Stark didn't feel as, like, solid or something as it has before. But there's not a whole lot of him anyway, so it probably doesn't matter.
It's part of the table setting stuff for the, like, Captain America 3, where he's like gonna be the villain. So it's like setting up that he's kind of going crazy with trying to protect the world.
Yeah, like
So
he's
he can't
losing it.
be. Yeah, so it puts him in a weird space in this movie where he's not getting to that point. Like he's not full like going evil or anything or going fully crazy. He's still one of the good guys, one of the Avengers. So it leaves him in a weird space.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, so like that was one of the things I felt he was a little off in this one, which probably is a little bit by design. Like if there's some meta acting going on in there, whereas like the reason he felt off was because the character Tony Stark is actually losing it. That's pretty cool, but because it's set up and stuff, like it just felt disingenuous in some spots, I guess.
Yeah, I mean he's also probably tired of playing that character.
Yeah, because I'm sure anytime his resume or like his portfolio goes around now, he is cast as the Tony Stark ripoff in anything, and he probably turns stuff down like that because he doesn't want to do that anymore. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that after some of the shit he's done in the past with being a drunk and whatnot,
Yeah.
he probably should just be happy that he's in major blockbusters every couple of years.
Getting a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that was one of the small little issues I had with it. It wasn't even really that bad because, like I said, every time he was Iron Man or Tony Stark, he was Iron Man / Tony Stark because that is him now. That has imprinted into his DNA. He is no longer Robert Downey Jr., he is Tony Stark. And, I don't know, man. Like, I don't even know where to go from there. I still think Captain America is pretty cool. There's a lot less of all of them because they try to focus on the story building, like you said, for the stuff coming up.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest shame, honestly, is because when I go to see an Avengers movie, I want that first one. I want the, like, all of them bantering back and forth more, always being on screen and, like, doing stuff. And in this, it's kind of like there's a lot of cutaways to stuff they're doing to show what Ultron's doing when he's made. A lot of stuff that's going on with like the Vision for a bit. Like I don't know.
Like, yeah, I think the real biggest problem with this movie is that the setup thing. I don't think that's necessarily a totally minor complaint because I feel like the Avengers movies are supposed to be, all right.
They're the
you made
payoff.
all these, yeah, exactly. Like this is where you're getting all the like action fan service you want, just seeing these characters bounce off each other that we've already established. Well, is this movie's like establishing all these new characters,
Right.
and then there's less for the character, like the people who were here to see, to do because they want to sell us on the next movie.
Right. Which is fine because that being said, and I've said this to people before, is that for like a bridging the gap movie, it's still super solid and an Avengers movie.
Yeah, they pulled it off.
Yeah.
It just makes it not as cool as it could have been if they had just been able to make a movie about the same characters. Although I don't even know if you could do that as good again anyway. Because they already did it once. Like Avengers already exists.
And I think that was my biggest problem with it, why it wasn't a great, like, 9 or 10 out of 10. And maybe, like, I would say at worst, it's probably a 6. At best, it's maybe an 8. Like, it probably ekes it out in some spots or whatever. But, yeah, man, like, I just wanted another Avengers where I wanted another payoff movie. Like, sure, make all your Captain Americas, make all your Iron Mans and stuff, but when you put the Avengers together, it should be as spectacularly big, like with all these personalities together at the same time as the first one was, and I didn't feel they reached that mark.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the way that it could have been done, theoretically, is you establish new characters in those individual movies better, like Falcon and War Machine, but then make those like your new characters you're focusing on in your new movie, along with the other ones. Like, add in what you've already established. Don't add in totally new characters.
Okay, so let's move on to the totally new characters that we're adding in this movie. We'll go one by one, I guess.
All right.
This is where spoiler talks start to happen. So if you're listening right now and you're I mean, here's the first biggest spoiler that everybody knows: the Avengers win in the end because of course they do.
Oh shit.
it's a comic book movie, and it's called The Avengers, so the Avengers are the ones who will win. That's how it goes.
Ultron, damn.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of was in some parts too, but we'll get to that. Yeah.
Fucking flesh bags.
Fucking flesh bags, exactly. This is where the spoilers start, though. So, Quicksilver. Why would they introduce a character that is kind of badass just to kill him off in the same movie?
That was someone was gonna die because it's Joss Whedon who's gonna kill someone.
I'll give you the biggest problem I had was because they didn't give it. I wanted to know more about that character's background. Like, I wanted to know, like, I want to see him a little bit more, for one thing. But the second thing is he's on screen, even in this movie, so little that his death really had no, like, impact on me at all.
Like, he was less compelling than totally thrown in Quicksilver from that X-Men movie.
Yeah. That
Quicksilver had personality. This you have Aaron Johnson talking with a funny accent.
And the only way that you even feel any gravitas to what happens when he dies is because they had needed a whole other character, his sister, to basically cry out in pain. So, like, that's the only way you feel that, like, oh, maybe he actually meant something to somebody. But then, that being said, I really like Scarlet Witch. Like, I really liked her in this. Not in this specifically. I want to see more of her backstory and, like, more stuff that she can do. But I thought when, like, he dies and, like, she feels it or whatever because she's telekinetic and all this stuff, and she just does, like, that scream and everything fucking around her just blows up. You're just like, yeah, that's badass. That was good. That's some Joss Whedon-ass bullshit right there.
Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver have sort of a problem that Hawkeye had in the first movie.
Yes.
In that their backstory is kind of torn apart because, like, the key to those characters is they were villains first and then they became heroes.
Right.
But there's no time to let them really be villains for all that long.
But they gave Hawkeye a little bit of that, like, they gave him more time to become the villain and then the hero, even though that's what made him less compelling in the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just mind control. You know, just that thing that happens in every comic book movie, honestly. It feels like at this point. It's just the easy way to write around, like, why good people would do bad things for some reason. That being said, I'm happy they finally made me somewhat care about Hawkeye a little bit.
Yeah, they made up for what a non-presence he was in the first one. They gave him some more stuff to do.
Not fully, though. They didn't fully make up for it.
It's true, because you still have that. Was he even going to... I didn't even know if he was going to still be on the Avengers, or he was done at the end of that movie.
Let's be honest. We all thought he was going to die, right? Because why would they set him up with a family and show that, like...
No, that was a total bait and switch.
Yeah,
they were totally setting that up for you to think he was going to die, to then kill Quicksilver.
Absolutely. Yeah, they knew what they were doing. And they did it well. They did have me fooled because I was just like, there's no way they would set up this weird, elaborate backstory with a wife and kid who love him and say, come home or whatever, blah, 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 only to have him live. And lo and behold, he lived. He was totally fine. He's like, no. At the end, it actually shows him come back home. Like, he's totally fine. Not even maybe a few scratches, but...
I mean, they totally throw Quicksilver under the bus to do it, but...
Which is annoying because just at the very root, Quicksilver is way more compelling of a hero with powers, first of all, and character than Hawkeye ever was. A dude with a bow and arrow and skills. Like, I don't like Hawkeye, and I really fucking hate Jeremy Renner, but that is a personal thing, and I'm trying not to let that bleed over on the character, even though it's hard.
The thing is, they don't need Hawkeye. They're not using Hawkeye to, like, what his strength was in the comics in these movies at all, which is he was the asshole who would tell Cap he was wrong.
Sure.
Like, that was sort of the Hawkeye's classic role. And they don't really need that because this team is way more about Cap telling Iron Man he's out of control. Like,
Sure.
that's a bigger part of the dynamic. So, like, they're not using him that way.
It's kind of weird because I feel like there's still elements of that character or whatever from the comics in the movie, because there's a part where he's talking to his wife and saying, like, they need me or whatever, and she's like,
Yeah.
you need them to, like, lead them, or it's like, what are you talking about? He's the one in the corner nobody cared about. Like,
Yeah, he was not important.
they don't even...
They never made him look like Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Like, he was, like, they just kept him as, like,
A dude.
a dude with a bow and arrow.
Like, anybody who wants to go watch that movie again, because I'm genuinely curious, in my memory, there's, like, no parts. See how many times Hawkeye says something, and another one of the main Avengers actually acknowledges him except for Black Widow. Because I'm pretty sure none of them ever do. It's almost like Jeremy Renner did his parts after the rest of the film was done. It's really weird. They never acknowledge his presence, like, in any spots, except for the fact that they go to his farmhouse. Like, that was probably the one day they had all of them together.
No one else has any connection with him, and they don't.
Arguably, Black
interact with
Widow
him in the
doesn't even.
fights.
Like,
No, like they're friends.
they just ham-fistedly threw it in as, like, we were both mercenaries once. Who gives a fuck? And now you apparently love Bruce Banner? Where did that come from? And why didn't that develop more so I cared about it? Like, what's going on?
Didn't do enough work with that. Like, there needed to be a Hulk Black Widow movie in between the two Avengers movies for that to make any sense.
It didn't, like...
Because it comes to nothing.
Well, there's that, and it also...
There's also that awful scene.
It starts out of nowhere. Like, It just starts automatically with her being like, I want to jump your big green boner, basically. And you're just like, okay.
There are moments in the first Avengers that's like, I wonder if they're going to go there. I didn't think they actually would.
Well, luckily they didn't, because there was just a few throwaway parts that make absolutely no sense, and then, like, Bruce Banner basically coming out of the shower and Black Widow saying, I would have jumped in with you. It's like, okay, I guess that's love, man.
It's lust, but
same thing, kind of, if you think about it.
Yeah, the words get used interchangeably a lot.
Yeah.
But also, that scene that romance had the relationship that has resulted in Joss Whedon quitting Twitter. Because people were... Specifically, it's the part where Black Widow talks about being sterilized.
Yeah.
And then refers to herself as a monster. And this wasn't the intention, but the way it can read...
Yeah.
is that she's saying she's a monster specifically because she was sterilized. Where it's really, she's talking about the whole thing of her upbringing.
Yeah, the fact that she was born to be a killer.
Her saying because she's sterile, she's a monster.
Yeah. Let's talk more about Black Widow, because I have some gripes with her.
Okay.
So, in the first one, and I know a lot of people have, like, voiced this opinion as well, she felt like the useless, like, heroine, like the token girl part of the group, because she kind of didn't really do anything. And people that are just like, no, you're just being like SJW or whatever they want to say on the internet these days. It's like, the only reason she didn't do anything is because they were fighting aliens, and all she can do is really, like, be really good with guns and martial arts and stuff. And she doesn't have superpowers, so what did you expect her to do? In this one, like, they said they were going to remedy that, and she's going to do some cool shit in the new one, and blah, blah, blah. They always say that, PR moves. She doesn't do any cool shit. She is literally the housekeeper. Every time she has done a cool thing, it's to help Captain America in this film. There are 3 times where she basically literally picks up Captain's shield as he's kicking, like, some ass or getting his ass handed to him by the big baddie, and, like, she's helping him out. And there is a literal part where she becomes a damsel in distress, where she needs Bruce Banner to break her out of jail.
Like, she also exists to be the girl to calm down the Hulk. Like, because they don't have Betty around. That's why that romance is there, because she has to fulfill that role.
Yeah, it's weird. She went from actually, like, a character that was underused.
She does more in the first movie. Just that one scene that introduces her, basically.
She goes from a character that's just grossly underused in the circumstances to kind of a female trope. She is the caregiver, the housemaid, basically, like picking up. She literally has a thing like, I'm always picking up after you boys or whatever. And she is, like, all the time. And she, the great fucking Russian assassin or whatever that can get herself out of any situation. I mean, in the first fucking movie, she's being interrogated by 4 dudes or whatever, and she breaks out of her chair, and, like, none of this was a problem or whatever. She gets thrown in a jail cell. There's not even guards around, and she can't get herself out. She has to wait for the Hulk to come. And not even the Hulk. It was Bruce Banner shooting a gun at the lock. Like, how original is that? But it's really fucking weird that they went kind of regressive to a point where she was a character they didn't do anything really well with in this movie to she is the token girl now, straight up.
Yeah, I mean, Black Widow is an odd fit for this Avengers team. Like, what they're doing isn't spy shit, which is what she's good at. Like, it's just a weird fit.
It is.
There are other female characters from the Marvel Universe that would have worked better.
Scarlet Witch, for instance.
Miss Marvel. Or just call her Captain Marvel.
No, I'm saying Scarlet Witch because she's literally in this film. Like,
oh, yeah.
If they had set her up more so she was actually part of the Avengers in this already.
You're right. Like, she doesn't really become part of the team either. She doesn't really interact with anyone other than she starts fighting on their side and fighting robots.
Sure. So, I don't know, man. I don't like the way they went with Black Widow. And it's a bummer because I really like Scarlett Johansson a lot. But, yeah, no, it's kind of a bummer where they went with her. Her love interest, however, the Hulk. The Hulk is still pretty badass, and there was a smile on my face anytime he was on screen. It's still there for me.
Hulk is great.
The Hulk versus great. Hulk, the Hulk Iron Man is like the best part of that movie. It's so good.
Pretty great.
It has everything.
Hilarious that the Hulkbuster is a Archie reference.
Yeah.
The Veronica thing, because Betty and Veronica.
Yeah.
So Veronica's to fight the Hulk. It's so dumb.
Yeah. That part though has everything. Like, it has everything I like about Avengers. It has their kind of like they're fighting, like they're infighting and people are like getting kind of hurt by it or whatever, but there's comedy in it. The lines in it are funny. The ridiculous spectacle of like Tony Stark had to build this giant machine just to even stand a chance to even get near this thing. Like, and he still gets the shit kicked out of him most of the time. Like,
yeah. And it's like Hulk is not in like pure Hulk mode. He's like distracted by Scarlet Witch magic. And like,
yeah,
like he's not at full Hulk power. It's the only reason Tony Stark really has a chance either.
I mean, the fact that there is just like the insane punching, just like to knock him out, just like punching him in the face like 100 times. It's so good.
It's really good. It's really good.
Go to sleep. Go to sleep. It's just like pray. He's kind of like praying, like, please, please, just go out. There's so many good things about that scene. That scene is the epitome of why I go to see like these Marvel movies, and it's just a shame that this movie felt like it maybe had 2 or 3 instead of the whole thing for me.
Yeah. They never got that great moment of like an army of robots or Ultron robots like closing in around them. Like it never really
They tried. There is a part in the church where they are all actually back-to-back fighting, but it is maybe 30 seconds as opposed to like an hour.
And it's indoors, not like big spectacle.
So what was one of your standout scenes in the first Avengers?
Hulk slamming Loki.
Okay. For me, it's like when the shit's coming down and like even like Hawkeye and Black Widow, he's like shooting and she's like doing whatever the fuck she's doing. Captain America's like running around bashing them all with the shield, and the Hulk's just like jumping across buildings, grabbing the fucking centipede thing and just like wrestling it down. Like that is the part. Like it's the same part we're talking about. It's the last hour and a half basically.
Yeah.
It never did reach this at all in this movie. It gets close in parts, but it wasn't the same. Like, it isn't the same when you're facing a whole bunch of different enemies. It's kind of almost like a Halo game or something, right? Where you have, like, your normal little grunts, you have your snipers, you have your big, like, hulking guys and all that stuff. In this, it's all the same robot, which is kind of lackluster, honestly.
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't do a thing where Ultron, all his robots were different. Like, I mean, it's obviously cheaper the way they did it.
Why didn't he just build some, like, direwolf robots that run really fast or something? Like, just do it up a little bit.
Ultron comic story I can think of where he has, like, an army, it's all of himself.
Yeah.
And they're all, like, different iterations of himself he used as he was evolving and getting better. So it's like every version of Ultron ever is coming after them. But they're all different looking and have different takes on the same sort of theme. But they're at least different.
I mean, the reason is obvious: time, money, and assets.
I just think about that scene from Iron Man 3 and wonder about it, though.
Yeah, because they have every mock version of Iron Man come out at the same time.
Like, and this movie's gonna make a fucking $1 billion. Like,
way more
budget, it'll be fine.
Yeah, way more than Iron Man did. Like, it is the movie people are gonna go see or have seen or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. There was something very lackluster about seeing the same grunt robot over and over get destroyed. Like, even if the robots were maybe stronger or something, so it felt like 100 of them was something daunting. Like, what if Thor had trouble taking out 2 by himself? What if, like, he had to take out 500? That's
specifically
cool.
The Ultron story I think of, it starts where they're fighting a single Ultron, and it takes, like, everything they have to beat him, and then another one walks out with a higher, like, the next number on his head.
Yeah.
And then another one, and then, like, one that says...
Well, you got to keep buying those comic books.
They're fighting 16, and then 17 walks out, and then 23 walks out. And they're like, how many are there? And then 425 walks out, and then the issue ends. Like, that's the Ultron story that is, like, kind of the best Avengers comic ever. That's, like, the reason you make an Avengers movie with Ultron as the villain is because of that comic. Yeah,
and I almost see why they had to make them kind of like the weaklings and just maybe more of them than they would have been in the comics. Was because Black Widow needs to be able to kill some by herself as well. Like, it's really bad.
Right.
It's really bad that the fact that they've introduced her kind of, it sets the bar lower for what they're actually allowed to do to make her like a viable part of this team, because right now she isn't at all. She hasn't been since arguably the first half an hour of Avengers 1, or maybe like in Iron Man for the couple scenes she's in. Like, that was it. And now like, how is she going to take on an army of actual Ultron? She's not. She is going to get ripped the fuck apart. If, like, a god... Okay, that's another thing. Thor is severely underused in this movie. Like, way more than any other movie. He has, like, 3 parts. He has a part where he's, like, joking around about the hammer or whatever. Then he has the part where he has a vision and then goes into the thing that they never explained, the cavern. And then he just comes out. They're like, no, it's all cool now. I saw a vision. We didn't see what he saw, really. We didn't, like, none of that was explained. And then the part where his hammer has a whole bunch of lightning in, he clears out some robots from the drill. That's it.
It's because he's a heavy, like, the awesome Thor moments are heavy lifting, and the heavy lifting at the end of the movie gets, like, ripped out from under him to pump up the vision.
Sure.
Basically.
But not even that much.
No,
because
not even that.
It's kind of like you think of these, like, badass mobster, like, mob people or something, right? And then, like, the end of the movie, when they finally meet up with the Donner that's running everything, it's just like Timmy Two Toes or whatever just shoots him while he's already bleeding. Like, it's not the same type of moment where, like, two gods are kind of facing off each other. It's like one newborn guy is basically just destroying a crippled fiend, and it's kind of not even fair. So,
Yeah.
that being said, I like the Vision in this. It was pretty cool.
They did a good job of giving him a personality, which he kind of doesn't have in the comics. So that was cool. Yeah. I liked what they did with his personality, at least. The real moment I wanted from this movie, like a specific movie from the comics, from that Ultron story, is like they fought this army of Ultrons, and all their clothes are all ripped up. They're like completely tired.
Yeah.
And like then like they break through a wall to find like the main Ultron, and Thor just says, "Ultron, we would have words with thee." It's a great line.
He barely has any lines even in this movie.
I know.
I think he might have less lines in this movie than he has parts.
His best line is "Jane's better."
That line's really good. Okay. So what did you think of like the comedy in this? Because I know some people kind of groan or whatever, or like they kidify it. I mean, they know their main audience will always be like adolescents or kids or whatever. That's kind of who the comics were even made for back in the day, and it just kind of evolved as the kids grew up. But it still has, all Marvel movies have that kind of like lightheartedness to it. I found a lot of the writing, like the jokiness and stuff, kind of good. Like, I thought it was pretty good for most of it, and down to the whole Captain America swearing thing.
It's the kind of quick jokes that Joss Whedon is good at. Like, it felt like Joss Whedon humor.
It did, and it works.
There are people who don't like that.
Yeah, I think they're wrong. I think it works for like the material. Like, the big thing for me was like the whole Captain America at the beginning, like language or whatever, and I thought that was so lame. Until they kept doing it, like it's a reoccurring joke, and then it just got funnier as it went on.
Yeah, just kept giving him shit for it.
Yeah,
like I like that. Like it felt like they were friends, that they were giving him shit.
Sure, it's kind of the same reason why the end scene, like the very very after credit scene of the first one's so good. Is where they actually go out for shawarma, and they're just like tired and just don't want to talk to each other, but they're eating. Like, it's that kind of thing where it's just kind of like there's a reoccurring moment going on between them as friends or whatever throughout the whole thing, which is great. And I thought that was really well done. It's always well done when Whedon does stuff like that. So, but I guess I could see why it wouldn't be everybody's cup of tea. Like, maybe people that take comic books too serious are not people I generally like to talk to about comic stuff. Like, the only person that has ever made self-serious, like, no, this is there's real, like, gravitas to what we're doing here is Nolan with the Batman stuff. Other than that, like, I want a little schlockiness, because that's at the heart of what comics were always about, these comics. Like, they were always kind of schlocky, and they only started getting self-serious later.
Yeah, the self-serious stuff I'm so sick of.
Yeah.
Like, by the end of the Nolan movies, I'm like, I don't want another Batman movie that's doing that. I don't want another serious Batman movie. It's really not what I'm looking for.
And I think that's the difference why, like, I was able to watch Avengers twice in theaters and, like, a few multiple times on Blu-ray at home. Whereas I've still only seen Batman Begins ever twice, once in theaters and once on DVD after waiting for a while for it. Dark Knight twice, and the other one, or Dark Knight Rises, once. Like, I can't take more than a couple watches of just self-serious, like, masturbatory work that Nolan does. But that being said, he does it well the first time. So it's always enjoyable. It's just that it doesn't lead to repeated viewings for me.
How was that movie made about, like, magicians and Tesla? I think The Prestige. I think that's my favorite. I think that's my favorite Nolan movie.
That's because it has a weird, like, noir schlockiness to it, though. Like,
Yeah.
because if it was self-serious, it wouldn't be about clones. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's based in a fantastical reality that Nolan has come up with for this story. It's not based on, like, just gritty down to the street level, like, thugs and stuff, which is kind of what Batman has always been. All of the villains in those Batman films are just thugs, essentially.
Yeah.
So maybe that's my problem with them. What did you think of Guardians to the Galaxy? It was brought up by Meowth in the chat, and I feel it has a lot of the same qualities I like in Avengers, just not to the Avengers level myself.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
What the big thing I like about Guardians is that the thing in Avengers, the part of Avengers that bothers me the most is that they have to be tricked to fight together to save the world by Coulson's death. With the
first
thing,
movie specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The first movie specifically. Yeah. The thing that Fury does with the cards, that he has to, and it so that it has to be about avenging, which is stupid.
You're right. It is
that they have to do that. Whereas in Guardians, it's really about them forming a friendship and wanting to save the world because they're friends. Like, the power of friendship saves the day in that super cheesy way where they hold hands at the end. Like,
I thought that scene's great.
That's fucking amazing.
It is.
That works so much better for this kind of material.
Sure. Yeah. Meowth is saying I'm more Guardians than Avengers. I can see that. The reason why I'm more Avengers personally is because I have a connection to some of the like main heroes in it. So like from childhood and stuff. And I have no connection with the Guardians people at all. So
yeah, I at least have some connection to the Guardians people because I read the comic books that those specific characters came out of, which aren't that old, but they're probably like 10 years old by this point.
10 years is fucking nothing in comic books, so
yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to think of other stuff. Let's talk about Ultron himself. James Spader, the voice behind the weird animated lips of Ultron, which I still bugs. It's not his mouth moving up and down that bugs me. I thought that was fine. It was that every now and then, for certain words or whatever, there would be like the bottom of his mouth pieces would form into lips randomly. Weird. Just for half a second, so that you could tell like the difference between like a B sound and a P or something. Like, it was really weird. But so that's such a little quirk though that bugged me. Yeah. Everything else, I thought his design was pretty fantastic. I thought it was good.
It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It doesn't hit that like classic Ultron look that I really like, but it was pretty good.
Yeah. That's fair.
I love that like 4 teeth gaping mouth look.
Yeah, the problem is that you have like a background with the actual comic, like the Ultron and Avengers comic books and stuff. I was more into like the Spider-Man universe specifically and X-Men and stuff. Yeah. So we can like wax poetic about Spider-Man, and I will be able to talk a lot about that, but not so much about these movies because like they were kind of in passing for me. A lot of these characters. Fair enough. But that being said, I actually knew who Ultron was, so that when they made the announcement it was called The Age of Ultron, I was excited. So that's still a little bit of a head start over a lot of people. So that's fine.
Ultron is a villain I really like, but they did him a lot differently in the movie because in comics he's a lot like what appeals is a lot like classic Doctor Doom, where he'd give these really long speeches pumping himself up. Whereas here he was way more quippy.
How did you feel about that? That's one of the things I was going to bring out. I kind of liked that he was still able to fit into like the Joss Whedon humor writing and be menacing at the same time.
Yeah, they did a really good job of that.
Yeah,
I enjoyed. I was fine with their changes. Like, it worked for this movie.
Yeah. Okay.
And they still because the important thing is still getting in his daddy issues. Yeah, and they got that in.
They actually like flat out say that like
Yes.
kind of at the beginning of all of this ordeal. Yeah. I thought it was great that he cut that guy's arm off, just like out of a little hissy fit, basically. He's like, oh gosh, or whatever. He's like, he felt kind of bad about it.
Sorry, because he's like a little kid.
Yeah, which makes sense because he was born the day before. Like,
Yep.
he was brand new. So I really like James Spader's voice as Ultron as well. I thought it fit really well. So, yeah,
I was excited. That's a big. I was excited for Ultron, played by James Spader. I knew he would pull it off pretty well.
Well, I mean, James Spader is a creepy, weird dude, so it makes sense.
It's true.
It makes sense that they would get him for a creepy, weird robot character. So, what did you think of the whole Jarvis basically being the Vision and being created by Stark? Not like, oh, this is so weird. Okay, I guess how do you feel about Ultron being created by Stark as opposed to I can't remember his name
Hank
in the
Pym.
comic. Pym, yes. Well, the Ant-Man. Yeah.
Giant man, yellow jacket. Like, he's Hank Pym. He's had so many alter egos that I think of him as Hank Pym. That's fine because
it builds up to what they want to do with his Iron Man story arc, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I've even in Ultron stories that with Iron Man talks about how Ultron, like, he's fearful of Ultron because it ties into his own issues with making technology and it turning into a weapon, like it being used for a purpose he didn't intend. That's bad. Like, that's all part of Tony Stark's arc.
Yeah.
So Ultron fits right into that.
Yeah, I mean, he is the perfect culmination of that, really, because he creates the ultimate weapon that he can't control. Like, it's not even that he, like, the problem is he can't control it. It's not that how destructive it is. It's that he gave it a mind of its own.
It's that other people or that some other mind gets a hold of something he made and does something bad with it, and that drives him nuts.
Yeah. It's kind of,
and it gets around the thing where Hank Pym is kind of a terrible person that you don't want to walk on into that hornet's nest. Him beating his wife and being generally a pretty bad relationship if you look back on it.
How do you feel? Like, are you excited about Ant-Man?
I don't know. I really like that character, that specific Ant-Man who's a thief.
Okay.
Scott Lang.
Okay.
Like he was actually created by the Robert Kirkman, who's the writer of the Walking Dead comics. So I like that character is interesting. I've read really good comics about him.
I guess it makes more sense that they would go with him.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would have broken. Like, wait, why didn't he just do all of this other shit? Like, but
No. So he's a thief. He's not actually a scientist. Like, he doesn't invent the Ant-Man suit or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the irredeemable Ant-Man is what the series he's from is called. He's a terrible person, basically.
All right.
So I'm interested to see where that goes. I wasn't sure about the trailer. The part of the trailer that really makes me think the movie could be good is the line where it's like he's like saying, "All right, I'm going to be completely better now," and then it's like, now I need you to go rob things." That is what you are becoming Ant-Man to do.
Yeah. It's like my days of breaking into places and robbing something is all over. Whatever. He's over. Like, so what do you need me to do? I need you to break into a place and steal something. Yeah, makes sense.
Superhero heist movie.
Yes,
I'm down for that. Like, that's what superheroes are good at. They are adaptable to other genres. So make some genre movies.
That's what Black Widow should be doing.
Yes, make a spy movie about her. Do that.
That would be fantastic, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking like a weird Marvel / Sin City type comic book movie, like lighthearted or whatever, but it's basically about her like solving something by breaking into places and killing dudes. And like, basically film noir meets Marvel. That's what I want with her character.
I mean, and that's the best kind of stuff Marvel's been doing recently in comic books has been solo titles that are like allowing characters to be their thing and being creator driven. Do that with movies. It's fun.
Yeah.
Make genres that aren't getting green light without superhero stuff, even though they should be, and just use that as a way of getting people to put the money behind it to make good movies.
Let's move on. And what do you think? What did you think about Captain America? Let's just hit all the points, I guess. Might as well. We've already covered most of the characters specifically, so.
Yeah. He was in this movie. Yeah, I'm trying to remember specific things he did.
Yeah. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Every time he is doing something, though, it's still Captain America coolness.
Yeah.
Just like bashing a dude with his shield away from him and then just like throwing it across a fucking football field length, basically to knock another dude out. Mm-hmm. And then grabbing it again with a magnetic hand or whatever they have going on. But yeah, I don't know.
The thing is, like, what Cap is really good at is like being the leader in the field. And there's not enough of them fighting together as a team to really make good use of that.
There's not even much of a field, to be honest. There's a church.
Yeah.
So, him working more with Thor is great.
Yes.
Like putting his shield up so Thor just like smashes his fucking hammer against it to make the shockwave. Like,
it's good.
Yeah, there's some good dual action stuff. Like, I think the best parts in those movies were when they were kind of acting together, like on like that 2 and 2 or whatever, or like working with each other. And then when they're solo, it really felt like a disappointment. Like, no, I'm an Avengers movie. They should all 4 be doing cool shit. Like,
so there was like an hour cut from this movie, and I wonder what was in it.
Probably
like,
more
was it
love scenes.
Action or was it character stuff?
Dude,
Like, I wonder.
It wasn't action. Because there's no way the stockholders would allow action to be cut, because that's what people are going for.
Probably not. But there was like an hour and a half of action in Avengers 1, and there's not that. There's not that kind of... That's what, like... I want, like, that really long, extended action scene. And we didn't really get it. Like, that was what... The first Avengers movie, what's really great about it is... It brings that kind of giant spectacle action, but in, like, it does it right. Like, you can see... It doesn't do it the way the Transformers movie did it, which is garbage.
Yeah.
Like, it's enjoyable, and it's just big. And this movie, you don't really get there with that long, just enjoying action scene.
Yeah, I think that's definitely my biggest problem with it too. I think we've hit everybody now, like all the main characters to talk about.
I will say Don Cheadle seems super psyched to be War Machine.
Yeah.
Like, he just seems happy to be there.
He should be. And honestly, War Machine is a great fucking character. And like, I mean, not so much this, but and the other stuff he's been in. Like, so yeah, no, it makes sense. I've always liked War Machine, and I think it's because he's always just been like, where Captain America is basically, or not Captain America, sorry, Iron Man is basically like a robot superhero. War Machine is literally Metal Gear. Like, he's just walking around, just, like, blowing shit up and shooting, like, bullets. And, like, he's just
like, he has none of the guilt associated like Tony Stark has. Like, he's totally fine just being a weapon.
There's, like, and there's no overcompensation with, like, lasers or anything really, like, elaborate or anything. It's just kind of like a nitty-gritty, like, you could see this dude in a war. Like, he was made to be the new tank, basically. Yeah. And that's great. I really like that. And Don Cheadle is so stoked to be there.
He's so happy. He's like... like, in a movie where it feels like some of the characters are, like, ready to not be in these movies anymore, some of the actors, Don Cheadle just seems stoked.
Oh, we forgot Samuel L. Jackson and the resurgence of S.H.I.E.L.D. that was underground the whole time, question mark?
Like, of course it was.
Yeah. But, like... I don't know. I think it's cool when the ship comes up, and then it's just like a moment there where the subtle acting is like, oh, there's salvation. Like everybody's like, yeah, this is good. This is what Shield should be and stuff. Like that part
Yeah.
felt good, but like they were basically just the lifeboats. Like the Titanic was still sinking. Shield was literally just the Shield wasn't a shield. They were the lifeboats to try to save people, just like normal Russian dudes. That's what they did. So this movie kind of was. It's kind of weird how they went with Shield, honestly, because the event, Joss Whedon's universe really considers Shield to be basically just be police, like world police.
Yeah.
Whereas they are like, because when they were trying to do stuff to save humanity in the first one, they were thought of as evil. So it's weird. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to make like, well, you're doing a positive view on the militarization of policing. Mm-hmm. Like that doesn't seem like a good idea. It doesn't match with reality.
No. But comic books shouldn't. They should be an escape.
Yeah, they should be an escape, but you shouldn't be thinking about the police militarization. Like you should be doing superheroes, not over the top military forces.
Then why is Black Widow in here?
Exactly.
That's the problem all along. Like, why does Black Widow get to live? Okay, so this just popped in my mind now. That situation would have felt so much better, like with Hulk's guilt about like everyone around him being hurt and stuff like that, if Black Widow was the one to have died. And then we would have had an actual superhero with superpowers for the next Avengers. But then every feminist ever would be so mad that the only female character and representation died in the movie. So I guess
Scarlet Witch.
Scarlet Witch is great. She is actually going to be like one of my favorite parts if they do her well. So I'm looking forward to that, honestly. And they got the Olsen that can act, so that's good. Even though she can't do an accent, but she can act.
Accents.
They're really bad. They're really fucking bad.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
I felt like she was too overpowered in this one, though, Scarlet Witch. Because, like, even when she joined the side of good, she had, like, her freak out moment, but then she walks in the street and she's just destroying every robot she sees with her mind instantly. It's like, oh, okay. Sure.
Vision is overpowered. They put a fucking infinity gem in his forehead.
I was going to ask you about that. What? Like, why? I don't know, man.
They're
reaching
trying
for
to come up with ways to integrate the Infinity Gems into stuff. So they're making all sorts of things that aren't Infinity Gems in the comics, Infinity Gems. So everything's tying back to the Infinity Gems.
See,
they're just sticking them everywhere they can.
The problem is, if there was a character made out of Infinity Gem, sorry, not Affinity. That's Black Widow's superpower. An Infinity Gem, they would just be the strongest thing ever. Like, that is how the Infinity Gems have always been built up, which is why the Infinity Gauntlet is so fucking scary, because it has, like, all of them harnessed in one hand.
Part of the story with it is, in the original story, part of the thing is, if you have an Infinity Gem, like, the people who originally have them, who are all just characters, I think, created to have them. Like, there was originally a story with one Infinity Gem, and it was like a giant thing, but then Starlin rewrote it to make them the separate things that these specific characters had. The people who had them didn't realize what they were. They just, like, sort of made them more powerful, but they didn't know how to tap into them correctly.
That's kind of like Loki with his scepter.
Yeah, but Thanos has, like, the knowledge, because he looks into this specific well that gives him, like, knowledge of everything. So he knows how to use them to their full power.
Which is scary, because he's the motherfucker with the gauntlet of all of them.
Yes.
Except for the Vision's head. But whatever.
He's going to tear that out of him. Yeah. He's not going to hold on to that thing. But
so, What did you think about the fucking cock tease at the end then, where he's just like, fine, I'll do it myself, and he grabs the Infinity Gauntlet. You're just like, you said that last time. What the fuck? Like,
I know. That scene is super short, and then there wasn't another scene after the end of the credits.
it's also super weird that at the end there of Avengers 1, he's just kind of like on the meteor. Like, he's just kind of sitting there in space, basically. And now in this one, when he grabs the gauntlet, he's in like this lavish hotel room or something. Like, it's just a weird dichotomy where he looked more menacing when he looked like basically just the god of space, which is essentially what he is, really, with all that power he wields. Mm-hmm. And then, like, in this one, he just looked like he came out of like this one of those rooms
like
at IKEA or something. Yeah, exactly. All right, we got some cola, some purple stuff. All right, infinity power. Grabs it, puts it on, destroyed everything. So so the biggest problem also I've talked to people about is that when they say, what did you think of the Avengers? I'm like, it's good as like a bridging story, but we all want the Infinity War to just happen. Like, that's what we were waiting for. This movie should have, like, Avengers 2 should have been the Infinity War, basically, and like Age of Ultron could have been a throwaway thing with maybe 2 of the Avengers dealing with or something.
Or like a movie that they didn't, like what you do for another movie when you're like trying to bring it down slowly. Like you're like, you've like hit your high and you're like doing the next thing that just needs to be good. But like that, when the part of me that was like, oh cool, they're doing an Ultron movie, there's also the part of me that's like, why is Avengers 2 not the Infinity War already? You're saving that for Avengers 3? Fuck you.
Do you think it'll be Avengers 3? Or like maybe 4 or 5?
I don't
I guess it depends how long they have Tony Stark.
I don't think he's even going to be in it.
You don't think so?
I think Captain America 3 is his last movie.
You know what?
Or whatever, or maybe Avengers 4 is part of they're doing Civil War.
I thought that was Captain America 3 though.
I think that is.
I'm pretty sure that is.
I feel like they've said what Avengers 3 is going to be.
Okay, so before like you confirm or whatever, the reason why I feel like it's probably going to be 4 or 5 is because I feel like for Infinity War, they need more than 4 Avengers that actually have powers. Like, they need to have need to have the Avengers. They need to have like Spider-Man in there. They need to have these other characters finally fucking come together. So I'm thinking maybe one more movie to put that all together with 3 minimum, and then 4 is when they can start thinking about that or something.
Well, I think they'll. I assume they didn't just bring in like the Guardians of the Galaxy for Infinity War, and have the Guardians and the Avengers. So then you have a lot of characters.
Are they not able to do like the Fantastic Four or any
Fantastic
of that shit?
Four? They don't have.
They don't have. No, I know they didn't have. I knew they didn't have X-Men.
Yeah. Fantastic Four they don't have. That's why that Fantastic Four movie is so weird. Because that's like we have to keep making Fantastic Four movies, or if we lose the rights to Marvel, and Marvel will make all the money with these characters. We can't let that happen. We have to make the money.
Meowth saying they need to have like a whole fuck ton of Avengers, right, Paul? I mean, essentially, that's why like the title is the Infinity War for a reason. It is a fucking war. Like, it is a huge spectacle. So I don't like. I guess
I think they're gonna make 2 movies.
Yeah, I agree with that. Oh no, I agree with that. That's why I'm thinking 4 and 5. I don't think it would be 3 and 4.
I think it's
3. If it's 3 and 4, 3 is going to be a letdown because it's all going to be build up to what we want to see.
I think Captain America is the next Captain America is going to be the build up.
It will be part of the build up.
Yes.
I think if they split Infinity War up into 2 parts, which I agree with you, they likely will. The first part will be build up. and it will
I think
end on a cliffhanger that
it
pisses
looks like they
everyone
have
off.
announced Avengers 3 as Infinity War.
They have for
I feel
sure.
like-
Weird.
Yeah.
What
I think
year?
Guardians 2, 2018 and 2019.
Yeah, so
parts
they're gonna
one,
film. They're gonna film both of them at the same time. Like, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna
So-
add anyone else, like Doctor Strange or like.
I think they are going to add characters.
Okay. What about Deathlock?
Well, I think they're making a Doctor Strange movie, so they might add him in.
Are they? I heard rumors about that. I don't know if it was ever confirmed though.
I remember they cast someone.
Oh well, if they cast someone,
So-
that's confirmed.
Yeah.
yeah.
They 2016 Doctor Strange movie. They announced a whole shit ton of movies, so they're going to have more characters.
What about
It's not-
Deathlock? Deathlock the Demolisher. Probably not. I mean, why would they? Like,
I think he's more. Yeah, I wonder what branding he's under, because he could be an X-Men. It's possible.
oh, you're right. Actually, he might be.
I don't know.
That's a good question. Honestly, who kind of cares? I just want to see more. I just want to see more like
I
heroes.
just want to see weirder stuff.
I
That's
do.
all I want to watch.
I really do.
That was why I was really glad Guardians was a hit, because that was
Groot.
like a weird brand to make into a giant movie.
Like
'Cause
Rocket
that
Raccoon
has
and
no-
Groot and like all these weird
No one has
characters.
nostalgia of that from when they were kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like these characters are from the 70s, but they were like in one series each. They're
Yeah.
much more known for stuff past 2000.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, they did pretty good with that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think that'll be cool. I guess just having even if they just have the Avengers now meet up with like the Guardians of the Galaxy and that's all it is, there'll be enough variation there where I think it would be great. Like it would be great seeing like fucking Groot like take over Hulk or something and become like this giant fucking tree Hulk thing that like there could do some dumb shit that would be great. So I'm sure that would be fine.
Oh my god, I want the Ghost Rider Venom Hulk.
Oh man. What about She-Hulk? To go to court when the Avengers are taken to court for wrecking the city again or something. She was a lawyer, right? If I remember.
She-Hulk? Yeah, she's a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. It would be great. Great tie-in. Great character. Not a great character, but I don't
Well, you can
care.
have the tie-ins with Daredevil. They can battle each other in court.
Yeah, exactly. Is Daredevil going to get representation on the Avengers team for Infinity War?
I have no idea.
Like,
no idea.
the only reason I ask is because that Netflix Daredevil is like really cool, but I don't know who owns the rights to that if Netflix was able to do a series.
That is Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff. So
That is?
yes,
Yeah, okay, so they own the properties to that then.
yes, they own Daredevil. I'm pretty sure.
Also, do you think, like, have they confirmed they're going to do another Spider-Man movie then in the Marvel Universe to tie him in? Or is he just going to kind of show up?
It's unclear. It
Yeah.
sounds like he's just gonna show up in one of those movies.
Which would be fine because he's had so many origin story movies now. He doesn't need another.
People know who Spider-Man is.
I do.
people are
I sure
aware.
know who he is. So, yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts, I guess, on Avengers before we go way off topic like we have been?
Just with the Hawkeye stuff
Yeah.
was kind of weird. How much of that time was about like the emotional scenes with him and his wife felt sort of out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. I really like that scene of Captain America and Iron Man chopping wood, though, with Captain America's pile being so much bigger.
Yeah.
That's a good
And then
scene.
I'm just grabbing the fucking stump and ripping it apart. Like the whole reason they were even using axes was so Tony Stark would feel a little better or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I still feel like there's a better movie hidden in that movie.
Maybe it was
But
that
it was
hour they
still-
cut out.
Maybe not. Maybe that hour sucked.
It might have. Either way, when they release it on Blu-ray, which you know they will, and charge an extra $20 for it or something, I'll see it. Like, I'll watch it. Why not? 3.5 hours. Let's go.
Yeah, when you can stop, like pause the movie and then go pee or go eat or something, 3.5 hours is less daunting a thing than going to a movie theater.
Yeah, it's very true. For me, this movie, honestly, I've made the comparison to somebody already. It felt like the DLC version of it's kind of like Skyrim almost, right? Where you already have the first thing that set everything up nicely. You enjoyed the hell out of the game or whatever. And then this was just a little bit more of that universe, but it doesn't stand alone. Like, you kind of have to already have investment in these characters from the first movie, and like, I almost feel like you have to have seen and really liked the first movie to even consider going to this one in a theater.
Oh, for sure.
So it's kind of almost just like the extension of that. It's just, instead of the next part of like the Avengers series, this is like the continuation of what they've been doing for a little bit. Like almost like a TV show recap or something with some new shit in it. That's what it felt like to me. So you actually have to be really involved in liking the Avengers movie, liking the characters and all that stuff to even consider watching this. Otherwise, it's like, as just a movie, it's not all that at all. Like, if you were just like, I'm going to go see what this new movie's about, I heard people talking about it pretty fondly, you're going to hate it because it doesn't do anything to let you know about who these characters are. It assumes a lot from you that you are invested. And
Yeah, for sure.
for the most part, they're right, because the people that are going to see this are. So they're probably fine in doing that, but I wouldn't recommend any, like, new people trying this out to be their first movie. That would
this
be
isn't
a
where to
terrible
start
mistake.
these movies.
No. I would even argue Avengers 1 isn't, but it still is, in a way. Because it's still enough of a fun time and a build-up where they all meet each other and hang out.
Yeah. As far as spectacle action goes, it's still, if that's what you're looking for, it still pretty much delivers that.
Yeah, whereas this movie doesn't. Just straight up.
No.
So Ultron was Avengers DLC? No, and that's the problem. Ultron should have been a huge thing. And this was not a huge thing. That's my problem with it. But other than that, it was a fun time for me. It was a fun time to spend 3 hours I was getting paid for.